everybody, Bob Chick back with another edition of The Voice of Bodybuilding. I'm here with Ace the dog. Say hey, Ace. That's a good boy. He's excited and ready because the Olympia is upon us once again, folks. I am leaving tomorrow out to Orlando, and here we go, the 59th edition of Joe Eater's Mr. Olympia. History will be made once again, and of course, once again, this edition is brought to you by our good friends at Panada, and as you can see, folks, the gym is coming along nicely. Don't know if you can see my unfinished ceiling, but we're getting to that. Just getting quotes. I'm not doing the work, okay? But the equipment's coming in. I got 5 new pieces coming as soon as they're made. They're actually getting made in Italy and getting shipped over. Can't wait, and that's going to pretty much complete the home gym project, but more about that later on, folks. And, of course, our good friends at Celsius. They'll be keeping me hydrated the entire weekend long, and you as well, folks. Visit the Celsius booth at the Olympia. They got free stuff just for you. And you're going to notice this logo right here. That's ProFit Sports Solutions, folks. Big announcement. I've been kind of hitting around to it the last few weeks, and I know I missed last week. I was in Italy traveling, doing some business overseas. But I have signed a exclusive partnership, full partner, I should add, in ProFit Sports Solutions. What's that, you might ask? Well, what we do is gym build-outs, sports, recreational facilities, anything of the like. Anything from Panada equipment, which we are exclusive to, although we can't get other stuff, but most people want the good stuff. Anything you can think of, flooring, lighting, lockers, AstroTurf, you want a sauna, you need a hot tub, anything you can possibly think of, that's what we put together. I've got a whole bunch of people already making inquiries because a lot of gyms are going up. The gym business is in full swinging mode these days, so great business to get into. But if you're thinking about building a gym, you know somebody putting a gym together, you know some builders in your area that you're good friends with, and they've got a hotel chain going in, they want some equipment, that type of thing, I'm your guy. So you guys can DM me any information, and of course we always appreciate your ongoing support. All right, folks, let's get right to it. Again, I am out tomorrow morning, first thing, off to the Olympia, and everybody wants to know, what's the Olympia picks looking like this year? Well, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. We're going to be here all day, but I do want to key in on a few key matchups. And I did go on Olympia TV just the other day with some of the boys. Sean Ray was on there, Flex Wheeler, Chris Cormier, and of course Tarek El Gindi, your host. And we were all putting our picks together, and there were some real interesting ones, man. I mean, Chris, I love Chris, but holy crap! I mean, he's got some stuff that we just had to scratch our heads at. But hey, we'll see. You know, stranger things have happened, right? Last year, I was the only one to pick Hadi Choopan for the victory, but I'm not picking him this year. Most people know I'm a huge Samson's fan and advocate, but I'm not picking Samson either. So there's going to be a surprise to some people. But let's start right off with the men's open, since that is our key matchup for the weekend, of course, the Mr. Olympia competition. Hadi Choopan, the incumbent defending reigning champion. I don't see him repeating, though. He was good, but he wasn't that dominant. As most people know from past VLBs, I thought Samson had a more complete physique, a more dominant physique. He was only lacking in that conditioning. Now, he was only 6th place last year. Talk about coming a long way in a short period of time. But he came in my estimation, about 90% at the Olympia. He got to about 95% at the Arnold. That was good enough for a victory over some key people. We'll get into that in a moment. But it was good enough to give him a victory and give him what I call co-status as Olympia frontrunner. Why co-status? Because you got to give it to Derek Lunsford, who was the main man to beat as he was runner-up last year. So everybody knows Derek's story, of course, coming up from the 212 into the Mr. 2nd place last year in his debut in the Open. And I've got to pick Derek as my favorite. We've all seen the photos. We've seen the video. He's training hard. Interestingly, he's training with Hadi, under Hani, at his personalized gym. And if you notice that equipment in Hani Rambod's gym, that's right, folks, it's customized Panada equipment that we just serviced to him this past year. So those guys are, in effect, training partners getting ready for the same show under the same direction of the same coach. Very interesting and very cool, but Hani doesn't play favorites. He'll get each guy ready to the best of his ability, and then they'll fight it out on stage. Let the judges make that comparison. Why do I have Derek winning over Hadi and Samson? Well, for the simple fact that, one, he had the best back in the entire show the last 2 years. I say the last 2 years because he had the best back when he was a 212 competitor. Now, I don't mean just in the 212. I mean he had the best back in the entire show in any men's division, okay? Classic, 212, open. Obviously, you're not counting men's physique in that, but put them in there as well. If you can have the best back and look that good from behind as a 212, imagine what he can do with an extra 20 pounds on him. And he's bumped it up considerably, but he hasn't lost the waist. The waist is still small. He's got cartoon-like proportions. He's going to be so dominant from the back, it's going to be hard to not give him the title. Hadi was a little bit weaker from the back last year. That wasn't his strongest point. And that's where I think the difference is going to be. Also, the reason I didn't pick Samson, even though he was my pre-contest favorite, let's just say 6 months ago, even though I like Samson's physique better, we have yet to see him come in 100%. Now, if people want to rewind the tape and go back and look at a VOB that I did some months back, I said, whoever nails it 100% will probably win the Olympia between Derek and Samson. Here's the problem I got. We haven't seen Samson at 100%. Arguably, we haven't seen Derek, but we've seen him much closer. So I don't know what we're going to see with Samson. If he brings 100%, it's going to be a hell of a showdown come Saturday night. If he's off even a little bit, it's going to be Derek's show for the taking. I got Hadi in a solid third. I think he'll look great. He'll represent. But I don't see him as a repeating champion. I think we're going to see a new Olympia champion this year. And maybe Derek Lunsford will be the first man in bodybuilding history to capture not one, but 2 Olympia titles in 2 different divisions. We've never seen it before. Perhaps this is the year that we're going to see it. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Those top 3, to me, are pretty much slotted in cement. The guy that could upset that top 3 is Brandon Curry. We've seen updated photos. We've seen updated video. You know, he's been hard at work over in Oxygen Gym. Big shout out to Badr Bodai and the boys over there in Oxygen. Also, folks, side note, if you look at the Oxygen Gym, guess who put that together? ProFit Sports Solutions and featuring Panada equipment. So just got to throw that one in there. But he looks fantastic. The only other Olympia champion on that stage. You can't count the man out. He's going to be good. He looks about as good as I've ever seen him. Can he hold that to the show? And can he combine keeping that size with getting that grainy conditioning? And that's where it's going to be difficult for him. It's not in his nature, physique-wise, to get that skin that thin. Probably one of the best built guys out there in terms of overall symmetry and proportion, but it's going to take all the factors to get this title. Don't count that man out. He's going to be in there. He's going to give it a good push. But the competition, hey, buddy. Hey, so you want to get in on this? The competition between 4th, 5th, and 6th is going to be a dogfight. Ain't that right, Jake? Ain't that right? Come here. All right. My wife's putting things on his tail, so he's a little out of sorts. That's going to be a dogfight out there. And what we have here is we've got basically a 4 or 5 man race for those 3 spots. All right, just keying in on our top 6. Okay, so far I've got Derek, Samson in 2nd, Hadi in 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. In some order. I don't know the order yet because I got to see these guys out there because it literally could go any way. You've got Brandon Curry, you've got Nick Walker, and you've got Hunter Labrada. All right? Hunter, I think, has come pretty full circle. I think we're probably going to see the best Hunter that we've ever seen. And it seems like he's got it down a little bit better. If he doesn't come out waterlogged, that's been his problem in the past. He comes out, he's holding a ton of water. By the time he sweats it out, he's already playing catch-up. But those 3 guys are going to be fighting for 4th, 5th, and 6th. In what order, I don't know. Nick Walker certainly comes to mind. I mean, obviously, you got to give the kid credit. He's a freak. How much does the freak factor count when you get on the Olympia stage? They're all freaks, right? We've gone over this in a past edition of Voice of Bodybuilding. What do you consider a freak? Samson's a freak. He's 280 pounds at 6 foot tall. So I don't know if it's going to be enough at his height and minus some symmetry and proportion concerns against those other guys. I think Nick's going to find himself on the outside looking in, and he's going to be fighting for that 5th or 6th spot. I do see Brandon Curry bringing his all-time best, and that's going to be fighting for top 3. I think at the end of the day, he's ended up in 4th. And let's face it, Hunter has beaten Nick in the past. Let's not forget that. He was 4th and Nick was 5th, if I remember correctly, just a couple of years ago. He's got better balance, proportion, shape. Clearly, Nick brings the freak factor and the muscularity in that department. Nobody's going to beat him on that. So I'm going to say that Hunter actually brings it all, and I think Nick's going to be fighting for that 5th spot. Past that, I mean, it's anybody's game. I mean, you got guys like Regan Grimes who, if he comes in We haven't seen it materialize to this point, but that kid's got everything it takes to be a top Olympian. Will we see a breakout champ? I would maybe even consider him the dark horse if I had to put him up there. And you still got guys like Michael Krizo, we haven't even mentioned yet. Obviously, the big man, Big Ramy, has taken the year off along with Bonac. We won't see those guys in this year's lineup. Who knows if we'll see him again? Maybe each one of those guys we'll call it a day. Only the future will see. But that's my predictions for your top 6. We're going to see how it unfolds. And we're going to see how that all-important first call-out goes when Big Steve gets those guys out there. Is it a 3-man race? Is it a 6-man race? Or will we see as many as 8 guys out there? The more the merrier, as far as I'm concerned. Let these guys out there. Let them compete. Nobody's complaining with more call-outs and more comparisons. So we'll see how the men's turns out, but I think we're going to see a new champion crowned this year. Speaking of new champions, I put this out the other night on Olympia TV. I love Chris Bumstead. I love what he brings. He's got the strive for 5 this year, I believe, but I don't think he's going to get it. Not that I don't like Chris, not that I don't think he's still got it, but I think Urs Kalasinski might have caught up to him. This kid has made huge improvements this year, and I say kid because he's all of what, 24, 25 years old? So he's substantially younger than, he looks like a younger Bumstead. And that's not a bad thing to be looking like when you're vying for the title. Chris still looks fantastic. He's going to bring it. Still the man to beat. And listen, if he shows up 100%, I would not be shocked if he puts another win in his pocket. And honestly, if he does, I hope he retires on stage as the champ, but doesn't retire from the sport. I'd love to see Bumstead go in an open show. Just once, if not to do it. He's made mention in the past that maybe it's something he would consider, but how cool would it be to see Bumstead in the open of, let's say, the Arnold next year? Nothing to lose at that point. He's cemented in history in classic physique. He's going to be a great champ, but he's going to get a big run from Urs Kalasinski, and of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Ramon Dino, my good friends from Brazil. He will be bringing it. The only problem I got with Ramon is he's a little bit out of proportion. Those arms, his forearms are so big. They're bigger than his actual biceps. Now, that's great for walking around, but on the Olympia stage, it puts you a little bit out of proportion, but it makes his back look smaller. That's where he's going to be fighting an uphill fight. But I think Ramon's going to be still in the mix. But I've got Urs with the upset of the year. I've got Bumstead in second in a very, very tight race. Maybe that's even a 1 point or a tie. And, of course, they got ways of breaking ties. Nothing ends up at a tie at the end of the day. And then I'd have Ramon in third. And then in a real tight race, you can never count out Terrence Ruffin. Terrence Ruffin, Arnold Classic champ. He won about 3 other shows this year. He's the smallest guy in the lineup, but, man, he's put together. His conditioning is fantastic. His symmetry and proportion, he's everything that Classic should be. But, man, it's tough to win when you're giving up 50, 60, 70 pounds to these guys standing next to him. They're giants next to him. But as giant killers go, he's going to have a legitimate chance to get up there and see what he's got. Breon Ansley. Breon, you know I love you, bro, but I think this was a huge calculated mistake. You know I've been advocating for you to go into that 212. I think that would have been a great move this year. We could have seen you going for history with 2 Olympia titles if you could win it. But you would at least have a good chance of doing it. I think the division has kind of passed Breon by. He looks great. I saw pictures of him in some video the other day. He's going to bring it, but I think he's going to be on the outside looking into a top 5 finish. Listen, future, he's still got before him. He can go into a 212 show or any other show he wishes to. But I would have liked to have seen him make that switch this year. I don't think it's going to elicit another Olympia victory for him in this particular class. But that's going to be your classic. And I did mention the Giant Killer. Of course, you got to go with Sean Clarita for that 212. But he's got some competition. Kamal Elgarni, we all know. A big shout out to Kamal, our best of your family. I know his brother was recently diagnosed with cancer, and Kamal thought it was best that he be there for his family in this time of need. So we give Kamal our best. He will obviously be unable to compete at this year's Olympia, so he's out. Derek Lunsford, we all know, moved on. He's in the open. He's no longer in the 212. So who do we have for competition for the Giant Killer? Well, you still got some competition. You got Ashkanani, who's no pushover, but I don't think he's got the attributes to beat the Giant Killer. He hasn't beat him before. He's probably not going to beat him again. But there is a guy, there's one guy who has a better physique than Clarita when it comes to just overall comparison, but he's got to bring in that condition, and that's Keon Pearson. Keon Pearson, for those old timers out there, reminds me of a young Edgar Fletcher. If you remember that name, this guy was really put together. Small waist, big shoulders, cartoon type proportions, but he's always had a problem with that conditioning. He's got to get that conditioning on par. It doesn't have to be as good as Clarita, but it's got to be close. It's got to be in that 95 percentile if it is. If Keon Pearson is in the 95 percentile of conditioning and holds on to obviously the rest of his attributes, he will be the new 212 champion of the world. If not, forget about it. It's Sean Clarita all day long, and it will be "and still," the two words that he's looking for. Can't wait for this battle to unfold on stage. It's going to be a real good one. And speaking of battles, folks, in men's physique, we've got something that we haven't seen before. Okay, you've got the champ in Banks. We all saw him last year, although I got to say, I had Brandon Hendrickson winning the show, but I'm not a judge. A lot of people had Brandon winning. At the end of the day, it went to Banks. But Brandon Hendrickson returning, looks better than ever, so you got those two going at it. So you think it's going to be a return match, except for one thing. Except for one thing. Chiron at the Legion goes in and beats Banks. Why Banks put his title up for grabs at the Legion is completely beyond me. This was not a good move. I thought it was a bad move when I heard about it. Listen, he's confident, he's cocky. That's fine, I'm all for it. We need those type of personalities. But he literally put the title up on the line, and Chiron comes in and he beats him fair and square. Now keep in mind, folks, this didn't happen back in March at the Arnold or overseas, you know, with a different judging panel. And, well, they just called it the way they saw it, or maybe Banks was off. Chiron Holden comes in there and he beats him fair and square, straight up. That was a month ago. He's going to be back on stage. So guess what? At the press conference this year, big difference in the press conference this year, lots of changes. We'll get into that in a moment. We're going to have Chiron up there. We're going to have Banks up there. You're going to have Brandon Hendrickson up there. And you've got the return of Jeremy Buendia, four-time Olympia champion, making a return. It's been 5-6 years since we've seen him. He looks fantastic. Now, the question is, has the sport passed him by? Does he still have what it takes? Well, he's putting it out there, and that's going to be a fantastic way to compare these guys. The sport has evolved so much in just 5 or 6 years. We're going to see, does Jeremy still have what it takes? Can he possibly get another Olympia title and beat these new jacks? We're going to see it unfold, but I can't wait to see Chiron standing next to a guy that he just beat for the unofficially, right? I mean, he won the Legion title, but obviously he wants that Olympia title. But this is all going to unfold at the press conference, which is going to be fantastic. So we've made some changes to the press conference this year, which I think are good ones. Some of it's a return to the old format where we had all the athletes up there. I think there's 34 of them or 35 of them. So we have a representation from all the divisions. I'll be out there facilitating, basically your host, as always. But we've got a celebrity panel that's going to be asking some questions. So literally, we call it a press conference. We've always had a problem with getting the press to actually ask some questions. But we've actually got some in place there. We've got Phil Heath. You got Ron Harris from Muscular Development. You got Fuad Abiyad. Obviously, everybody knows Fuad with his podcast. You got Lenda Murray. And you got Tarek El Gindi, not only a head judge, but also host of Olympia TV. And, of course, he puts together all those great Olympia battles that we've seen all year. So they're going to have the ability to ask questions. I'll be able to ask questions and facilitate. And we've got some great matchups that we're going to see. Listen, you got to talk the talk. You got to walk the walk. That's what it's all about. And, of course, we'll see all our ladies on stage as well. The other divisions, I'm not going to go into the ladies' divisions, but you can pretty much count on a repeat performance from Natalia Coelho. I believe she will be another and still champion, the two words that she's looking for on stage. Bikini, it's a toss-up. Listen, a different girl's won every year for the past, 5 years or 6 years? So I'll pick Laura Lee just because she hasn't won yet. Why not? Love what she brings, love what all the girls brings, but I think we're going to see a new champion there in bikini. Women's bodybuilding, forget about it. As good as all these other girls are, Andrea Shaw, just too good, man. Ain't going to take her down. She'll be challenging Lenda's record in just a few years. And, of course, Sydney Gillen, what can you say? I think she's going for number 7. I've actually lost count at this point. Nobody's taking her out unless she comes in way off. All due respect to Jessica Padilla and Fit Lola, of course. They look fantastic. They'll give her a nice run, but at the end of the day, Sydney Gillen, just too good. Oh, I do want to end with this. At the Legion, new fitness pro. Small little, tiny little girl, right? But man, she's put together. Her name's Taylor. She won the show. She had one of the best routines I've ever seen in the history of me seeing routines at this level. And I'm talking about the Olympia level. She looks like she's been training with Bella Caroli for years, like she's getting ready for the Olympics. Look for her to make a splash. Taylor Larchmont, if I'm saying that correctly, going to be making her Olympia debut. Do not be surprised if she is the last woman standing and is your new fitness champ. All due respect to the champs, because she's got her hands full. She's got Oksana, she's got Missy, right? And who else is out there? Everybody else. So she's going to have to beat Whitney. Sorry, drawing a blank there for a second. So she's got some former Olympians there. I'm telling you, the routine I saw at the Legion, I don't think any of them can touch her. We'll see if I'm right on that one. But all right, folks, Harold Kelly, of course, you can't beat Harold. He's just too good. He'll be, and still, I think for what, the 6th, 7th, 8th time, he just keeps winning and winning and winning. So, but that's going to wrap it up, folks. I will be on location all weekend long, so expect some videos in real time. I'm going to be behind the scenes showing you guys what's going on. I'll try to get some interviews Thursday night with some of the Olympians and some of the dignitaries that are there. My buddy Dave Batista, my bro, he is the ambassador this year for the Olympia, so he'll be around. The big man, Shaquille O'Neal, bodybuilding's biggest fan, will be there Saturday night, I'm told. So we'll be seeing all these fans and all these friends and, of course, all these celebrities in attendance. It's going to wrap it up here, folks. I'll see you guys this weekend from Orlando, Florida, and the 59th Mr. Olympia.